After many long years, Croc is finally back with the remaster of Croc and the Legend of Gobbos. The original Croc released back on the PlayStation, Saturn, Game Boy, and PC, with the PlayStation version being considered the best out of the bunch. So in this video, I'm going to be comparing this newly remastered version with the 1997 original PlayStation version. Keep in mind that this remaster is built off the PC port's source code, as that's all Argonaut Games had to work with. It's important to keep that in mind, since that version had a few issues of its own when compared to the original PlayStation version of the game. And the last thing I want to mention before we kick this video off is that this video will contain some spoilers of the game. So if that's something you're trying to avoid, I'd recommend skipping to the conclusion at the end of this video. I did a video on my early impressions of this remaster based off of gameplay shared by Argonaut Games leading up to the remaster's release. In that video, I pointed out a few concerning issues that caught my attention. Fortunately for us, a good number of those issues did get resolved before the game released. Those include a bug with the gong stand's visuals, a lack of reverb in certain areas, and skyboxes being positioned differently than their original PlayStation iteration, with that last one only being fixed in gameplay portions of levels. They currently aren't properly positioned in cinematics. While this has seemingly minor visual changes to many cinematics, it does completely break the illusion of water in the Crystal Island unlocking cinematic. Instead of a blue background to signify water, we have this black one, which looks a bit broken. Issues aside, overall, this remaster does a lot of things well. The controls have been reworked, making this the best Croc has ever felt to control. Gone are the days of fighting with the camera just to see your surroundings. A nice quality life feature that's been added to boss fights is a visible health bar to show you how much damage a boss has taken and how much health they have left. I'm a big fan of the approach Argonaut Games has taken with graphics. They kept the original graphics along with adding newly remastered ones. What really makes this remaster shine is the ability to mix and match between the retro and remastered models, textures, and lighting. There's even a CRT and VGA display modes for that retro look. The graphics can be changed on the fly with the push of a button. You can even swap between the graphical modes during cinematics. If you make any changes to the graphics settings, a custom option gets created, allowing you to swap between retro, remastered, and your own custom setting. As for the control options, you can invert the Y and X axis on the camera. And lastly, the audio options has separate volume settings for the music, sound effects, and ambient noise. Passwords make a return, where you can enter a level password to jump to a specific level. There's also a few passwords that serve as cheats. These unlock the secrets option in the pause menu. There's cheats for invincibility, infinite lives, all bonus crystals, all keys, and what is called Pause Free Look. Pause Free Look is a really cool feature that lets you control a free cam while the game is paused. You can freely move the camera around and even adjust the camera's field of view. I like to think of the Pause Free Look feature as a light photo mode, since it's a great tool for taking screenshots. I can't talk about this release without talking about Crocopedia. Crocopedia is full of extra goodies like interviews, design documents, art, music, documents from the cancelled Croc TV series, and even instructions on how to crochet your very own Croc. There's loads of content in the Crocopedia, and it's definitely worth checking it out. Argonaut Games has already released a patch that fixed a number of issues. Recall how I said the remaster was built using the PC source code? Because of that, numerous PC-specific bugs had made their way onto this release. A big one was missing and mismatched in-game music. Essentially, this made it so that many levels were playing the wrong music. A prime example of missing music is the Dante boss fight, which only played one track for each of the 3 phases. The patch fixed this to play the correct track for each phase. Even with these fixes in the first patch, there's still a few mismatched music tracks that require fixing. One example of this is the tracks played in the bonus areas of the first island. Another problematic audio issue is that the level's ambient audio would cut out about a minute into gameplay. While the issue has been fixed, the ambient audio doesn't loop properly and has a silent gap between the loops. At release, the spike ball obstacles had a frustrating gameplay bug. Their collision point did not line up with their visuals, causing you to take damage even though you never touched it. Post-patch, the spike balls play as you'd expect, making them easier to avoid. A slight change was made to the Gobbos counter when selecting a level. A counter now shows how many you've collected out of 6. In the remastered graphics, both lava falls and waterfalls has dark area under them, which has been patched out. The sparkles that take you to a bonus area in a level had poor visibility against certain backdrops like ice and snow. This has been fixed and they can now be clearly seen. Numerous missing effects have been restored, such as the ones seen under platforms being raised over bodies of water, lava, and sand pits. A missing stomp effect has been restored as well, for the stomping Dantinis attacking when they hit the ground. During the boss fight against Itzy, his smallest form will somersault after you. The animation for his somersault was broken, making it hard to judge his location before the patch. The balloon man who you come across in the castle island had eyes that would rapidly blink before the update. There was an issue where the camera would sit at an awkward angle when Croc climbed across monkey bars. And finally for the patch, legacy behavior has been restored to the colored crystal doors in that they now display the collected color crystals in your HUD when approached. As you can see, a lot of good progress has been made in what's been patched so far. Now let's shift our focus over to issues that are still present and require fixing. The audio mixing is vastly different than its original PlayStation counterpart. The difference seems to be that both ambient sounds and sound effects are being played at a much lower volume in the remaster. Here's a few examples of the sound effects mixing volume differences. Because the sound effects are quieter, the distance that the sound effects can be heard becomes shorter. Listen to the difference in the Dantini's footsteps between the games, even though the Dantini is the same distance away. Now see if you can hear the stomping noise of the distant Dantini between these two clips. A very similar problem seems to be happening with the ambient audio as well. ambient sounds get lost in the other sounds of the game. I'll play that same ambient audio as before, this time with the music turned back on. Even if you adjust the in-game audio sliders, you still won't be able to achieve something close to the PlayStation's mixing. Audio issues aren't the only problems present in this remaster. In my first look video, I voiced my opinion on some of the changes made to the HUD. These haven't changed in the release, and I feel they are worth mentioning. The typeface used to keep count of your crystals, Gobbos, and lives has changed from stylized and colorful to a more clean and uniform design. I'd like to see a more faithful typeface created for this remaster, as it was part of Croc's visual flair. The other HUD element that could use some tweaking is the colored crystals shown in the upper middle area of your screen. On the PlayStation, anytime they were shown on the HUD, they were accompanied by a spinning animation. In the remaster, there isn't any animation, and they're completely static. Also, when you have either the CRT or VGA retro display enabled, the HUD actually gets rendered over the filter, which breaks the immersion of playing on an old display. A subtle yet impactful difference in the remaster is that lives don't save if you exit the level select screen. I'll show you what I mean. Note how I'm starting with 5 lives, then grab an additional one to make it 6. That additional one gets carried over when I exit the level and load back into a level. That's how it's always worked. The problem occurs when you leave the level select screen. The lives don't get saved to your progress, so by going into the password screen for this example, you lose all progress you made with your lives. This isn't how lives worked on the PlayStation. Lives would get saved when you quit a level, not when you complete a level. The way the remaster handles lives can cause some frustrations because it allows for situations where you can lose your progress on lives that you've accumulated. An interesting change that I'm wondering if intentional or not is that the cinematic camera's field of view has been lowered slightly. This change is carried over from the PC port and makes everything in the cinematics appear closer to the camera while also showing less of the scene. The camera used in the level selection screen seems to also be affected by this change. The reason I think it may be an intentional change is that it crops out the water in the opening cinematic in a way that helps blend the effect with the background. One other cinematic specific issue that I've noticed is that there are instances where parts of characters won't render for a frame where the camera cuts to a different angle in a cinematic. This happens very briefly, and it's the kind of thing you'll miss if you blink. It seems to be only present in the opening and closing cinematics of the game, since those are the only ones where a camera cuts to a different angle. Again, I want to stress that this is only present for a fraction of a second when it does happen. The retro graphics used for the pools of lava, water, and sand pits doesn't match the designs used by the original PlayStation. The designs being used aren't bad, mind you. They just aren't how I remember the game looking. My biggest issue is that the water that you can jump into to start the underwater portion of a level lost its sparkling, glowing traits. If they're going to keep those new designs, I'd like to see them re-implement those traits to the water. Another change that originates from the PC version is the color of some of the stretchy platforms seen throughout the game. Some have been recolored to purple, while others have been left as the orange color. The level select screen for the entire castle island lacks a rain effect. The cauldron used in the gem catching games has a colorful texture inside of it that's been inherited from the PC release. Throughout the castle, you'll find these handrails that have large balusters at the end of them, with a seemingly broken texture. At the end of the Tower of Power level, behind the colored gem door is a Dantini holding a Gobbo hostage. The Dantini's color was changed from dark blue to yellow in the PC release, which, as you may have guessed by now, has carried over to the remaster. I'm not a fan of this change because I always thought that it was implied that this was the same Dantini seen in the intro cinematic kidnapping a Gobbo. The intro cinematic for Baron Dante's Funky Inferno shows 2 Dantinis standing on boxes. For some odd reason, the design was changed from the castle box design to the Forest Island design, which doesn't make much sense on account of the scene takes place inside the castle. Speaking of boxes, there's a bug where if the box is floating above the ground and Croc stands on it, his feet will slightly sink through it. Something's changed the movement pattern of the Husky Doo enemy. This can be observed at the very start of the level Riot Burr, where a Husky Doo can be seen running clockwise. At the very start of the same level on the PlayStation, however, the Husky Doo runs counterclockwise. This enemy's movement changes direction over time, so the bug isn't the fact that it's running clockwise, but rather that it starts the level running in that direction. A few of the enemies in the game have limbs that are stricken with bugged movements. Take a look at Flibby the boxing ladybug's thigh. It bugs out whenever she chases after Croc. The zombie prisoner that guards the 3 buttons on the level Tower of Power has a leg that just can't seem to stay in place. And then there's that poor tumbling Dantini, who can't seem to stomach all that tumbling. During a boss fight, if you pause the game and go into a submenu, the health bar will disappear from your screen. It won't reappear even if you try changing the graphics. You'll have to lose a life to bring it back. These little platforms you can see throughout the game have a visual bug that is only present in the remastered graphics. Part of the platform doesn't handle the shadow that Croc casts properly. From what I've seen, this bug is present in all iterations of this particular platform. The pause-free look feature can actually get the game stuck in the soft lock state if you have it enabled and use it during the game over screen. You can see here that I'm given a little bit of movement during the cinematic, but not too much. The game will return to the main menu without any options. In this state, the game doesn't respond to any button presses, forcing you to restart the game to regain control. Okay, so that covers all the great things about this remaster, as well as all the things that require fixing. I want to quickly touch on things that the game lacks that I think would improve the experience. We'll call these the nice to haves. Let's start with the legacy features missing in this remaster. First on the list is an option to restore the original PlayStation lighting. Having this feature would be great for those who played the original. Next is the original camera. While the new one is leaps and bounds better than the old one, it should be an option for players, so they might have an option for a more accurate legacy experience. The original game allowed you to view the intro cinematic from the main menu. This option isn't present in the remaster. I'd like to see Argonaut Games take it a step further and add all the game's cinematics to Crocopedia for easy viewing access. A lot of the charm from the main menu was lost in the remaster, with the lack of 3D models for each of the options. Those models have been gutted, and the Croc logo, which was a 3D model, is now a 2D texture. While the controls themselves feel good, the customization is pretty lacking. Remappable controls would be a very welcome addition. Even the original release had 3 different control schemes that you could choose from. A bug that was present on the original PlayStation release that made its way into the remaster is a number of the level passwords unlocking more levels than they should. For example, if you punch in the password to unlock Hassle in the Castle, you unlock it, but you also unlock all the levels past it. While being a relic of the memory card era, there doesn't seem to be any way to show a level's password. That, along with no way to pull up the options from this level select screen, is notably missing. You could also include the save game option, but that's not necessary, with the game automatically saving your progress in the remaster. My suggestion is to implement the options to the options or start button and the show level password to the unused face button, which in the Xbox's case is the X button. What it boils down to is that Croc is back and he's never looked or played any better. While there's some audio and visual issues that need to be worked out, I'd still highly recommend the game, since they aren't terribly detrimental to the experience. I've got faith that Argonaut Games can continue to patch the game and get it to where it needs to be. If you've played the original, you'll certainly appreciate the improvements to the controls and camera. For those who haven't played Croc before, I recommend it if you're a fan of 3D platformers, retro games, games with good soundtracks, or just like reptiles. If you're on the fence on this game, just so you know that Argonaut Games themselves have said numerous times that if this game sells well, they'd remaster Croc 2, and if Croc 2 were to do well, they'd look into making a Croc 3. So if you're on the fence about getting this game, that's certainly something to consider. That'll do it for this video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider hitting that like button and subscribe to my channel for even more content. Thanks for watching and have a good one.